All right, so in the last video, we talked about defining a variable. We also talked about the idea that variables can change during, hence the term vary, right? So let's say I have a variable. Oops, I hit Siri by accident.
I'm sorry.
Let's say I have a variable. I'm going to call it fave number. Okay. Is my favorite number. And I'm going to start it at 10. Okay. And I've created this variable. I don't want it to be my favorite. I don't know. Let's say it's like the number of I don't know how many pens I have. Number of pens. Okay. It's 10. Okay. All right, so let's do this. I'm gonna create I declared a variable number of pens. All right. Putting that right smack there. And I said the number is 10. Okay. No, that looks like a 6, but okay, let me fix that. It's supposed to be 10. Okay. I'm gonna put that in there. All right. Now, let's say during the course of the program, someone gives me 2 pens. So I had 10, someone gave me 2, now I have 12. What I could do is redefine the value of this variable. I'm going to say, well, number of pens is now 12. So what I'm really doing is I'm reaching inside of this, getting rid of the old value, and I'm putting in the new value, which is 12. Okay, put that in there. Then let's say I give all my pens away. So now I have no pens. So number of pens is equal to 0. Okay. So once again, I'm taking out this value of 12 and I'm replacing it with the number 0. Okay, put that in there. All right, so I declared a variable, but then I changed it, and then I changed it again. And I'm going to use a function. The function's called print. And what print does is it actually can go and look up a variable's value. I'm going to put the name of the argument it takes is the name of the variable, which in this case is number of pens. So really, like I said, it's, my value here started at 10. Then we renamed it, or we gave it a new value of 12. And then we gave it a final value of 0. So if I were to run this program, it's 0. Okay. So, during a program, a variable can change its value many times, hence the term vary or variable. Okay. We also have something called variable substitution. Okay. So let's go back to, once again, high school algebra. If I have this expression, x is equal to 1, 1 plus x equals question mark, what we can do is, if we know the value of x because it's been defined, we can take the value and plug it in anywhere where that variable exists. So since we know now that x is equal to 1, that means this is a value of 1, and then 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Okay. So how does this relate to what we might be doing in this class? Well, we can create a variable give it a value of some form. And then we can, instead of using a hard value, like, 50 here, I could use a variable. And then since we know that the variable's value is 50, that plugs in 50 right here, and then that completes my project. If for some reason during the project, the value of the variable changes from 50 to 80, that would make this 80 instead of 50. Okay. So in other words, if we know what the value is, we can plug that in. All right. So let's go back to exercise 1. This is actually what we've been trying to do. I'm going to go back. All right. So what I'm going to do is, you were supposed to make a couple of variables here, like, fave number, just declaring some variables. All right, what we're going to do is we are going to do some variable substitution. I want you to make a variable called circle diameter and give it a value. Okay. I'm going to say let circle diameter, and then let's make it equal to 50. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to go inside of the setup function here. And I'm going to type in circle x 200, x y 200, and then 50. Okay. So if I were to play this, the circle stays the same, or here's the circle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this, and instead of just typing out literal value of 50, let's put in circle diameter. What's going to happen is this value is going to be substituted into there, which is going to make this 50. Okay. So if I hit play, it's 50. Okay. Now you might be going like, well, that seemed like a lot of extra work to get the same result, which is true. But the reason why we might want to do this is, well, what if later on in my program, we redefine what the value of circle diameter is? Maybe inside of setup here, I'm going to say, yeah, circle diameter was 50, but now circle diameter is equal to 80. Or let's make it 100. Okay. All right, let's do this out again. I'm going to start from the beginning. These aren't really related to what we're doing, so I'm just going to get rid of it. Line 1, we're creating a variable called circle diameter. Circle diameter. All right, placing it there. And we're saying the value of it is 50. Okay, placing it there. Putting that to the side. Then we jump into setup, because setup is the first. This will run first, and then setup runs after all of this code has been done. So what we're saying here is circle diameter is now equal to 100. So by doing that, I've basically said, okay, go get circle diameter, which is this, take this value, remove it, and put in the new value of 100. Okay. Oops. And then it's going to make a canvas. That's what this is doing. It's going to add a background. That's gray. Then it's going to make a circle, just like you guys did in the last module and as you did for homework. So it's going to put it an X of 200, a Y of 200. And then I said, well, the value the diameter should be equal to whatever circle diameter is. So what that's going to do is go find the variable circle diameter, look up the value, and the current value is 100. So what that's going to do is basically use 100 there. And if I do this, it's bigger. Okay. So this is what we call variable substitution. Okay. What's nice about this is if at any point circle diameter equals 200, now that this would substitute 200 here as opposed to 100, and I get a much bigger circle. Okay. So, the point of doing variable substitution is that we can use variable names to hold values, but those values could still change, and so if I change the value, this value here, if I got rid of this stuff, by changing this value from like, say, 50 to 80 or to 200, you can see how that changes my value. Okay. Here in exercise 2, I'm just, kind of just more examples of this. I'm going to make a couple of values, one for the x position of the circle, one for y, and one for the diameter. So I'm going to make a variable called circle x, and let's set that to 200. I'm going to make another variable, circle y, and make that equal to 200. And let's make another variable for diameter, circle diameter equals 50. I'm not going to do this out, but essentially what it's doing is doing this 3 times. It's making a variable, giving it a name, and then this is initializing it or giving some sort of value, whether a number, a string, or a Boolean. Then what I'm going to do is, if I were to come into here, I could say circle. Now I could say 200, 250, but I want to use these variables in this way in case during the program I decide to edit the variables, it'll update. So I'm going to put in circle x, circle y, and circle diameter. What's going to happen is circle x, since we know the value of circle x is 200, that's going to go there. We know the value of circle y is 200, so that's going to go there. And we know the value of diameter is 50, and so that's going to go there. So if I play this, 200, 250, and like I said, you might go, why would you? That does seem like a lot of extra work to do the same thing we did last class. Well, the idea is, let's say during this program, I decide to rechange the diameter. Circle diameter equals, I don't know, 150. By the way, you'll notice that when you reset the value, you don't have to say let again. Let just creates the variable or initial, it declares it. Once you declare it, you don't have to keep declaring it again because it already exists. It's kind of like when we were creating CSS classes. Once you use the period to create it, you didn't have to keep using the period again. It was already created. So once you use let or var to create a variable, you don't have to keep creating it again because it already exists. We're not making something new. We're just taking something that exists and giving it a new value. Okay. Maybe I'll take the circle y, and I'm going to change its value from 200 to say 350. Okay. So now if I come back, you can see it's bigger and it's lower. Maybe I want it over here. So I'm going to reset the value of circle x from 200 to 0. And, you can see how that changes that. Okay. So once again, that's just kind of working with variables here. In the last couple examples, those were all number variables, but I can also use things like, I can also use text-based, string variables. So what I'm going to do is, let's say I'm going to build a square, but I also want to set up some visual items for it. So let's say I want to set up, you guys know that if I wanted to set the fill of something, I could use the fill command. We learned about this in the last module. If I use yellow, this would set this to being a yellow square as such. But let's say I wanted to I'm going to set this as a variable. So I might say something like let square color equal yellow. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is instead of using an actual value, we can use the variable square color. Okay. So what would happen here is this value would be substituted into there. Once again, that seems like a lot of extra work. Well, that's true, but what could happen is I could come into here and reset the value of this square color equals red. Once again, I've created a variable called square color set to my variable, and the original value was yellow. Right, and put it in there. And then when we get to this line, it's whoops, we're going to change that value. So I take this out, I give it a new value of red. Put that in there. And then when we get to here, it's saying, hey, can you go get the value of the variable squared color? So it goes, finds this. What is the current value of square color? Well, it's red. So the result's going to be a red square. Okay. So what I could kind of do is we could say, okay, how about let's make a square stroke color. I'm going to set that currently to, I don't know, black. And stroke is the function. And then I'm going to use variable substitution to put square stroke color. That should give me a black stroke. I guess it already was black, so maybe let's change it to blue. There you go. Okay. If I want to set a thickness or a weight, I'm going to call that let square stroke weight. That should be a number, right? Because it's measured in pixels. I'm going to set it to 10. And then let's set, I think it's stroke weight. Yeah, I think it's stroke weight is the function. And then I'm going to use the variable circle or square stroke weight. That's going to do a variable substitution. It's going to put that there. And then there you go. Okay. So we are creating variables and then we're using variable substitution. All right. So I want you to do one for the X value, the Y value, the diameter, and then for the color, order weight, and or stroke weight, stroke color. Okay. All right. So try that out, please.